Hello, friends. Kevin here, and thank you for checking in with another episode of The West of the Story. Wyoming is almost as well known for its wide open spaces as it is for a bucking horse named Steamboat. Not only did Sports Illustrated feature Steamboat in 1970, he was also seen on a patch on the Wyoming National Guardsman who served in the 148th Field Artillery Regiment in World War I, and what many consider his likeness appears on nearly 600 million U.S. quarter coins, making him Wyoming's most famous ambassador by far. Furthering UW's ties to Steamboat, Dean Hutton, the UW athletics equipment manager, purportedly used the famous 1903 picture of Guy Holt riding Steamboat as the model for a silhouette first used on the UW athletic uniforms in the 1920s. Although Steamboat is a universally recognized symbol of the Old West, a true story of Wyoming's famous bucking horse symbol remains shrouded in debate. Steamboat's start was as a colt foaled on the Frank Foss Ranch near Chugwater, Wyoming, the progeny of a massive Percheron stallion and a hot blooded Mexican mare. A product of his breeding, he grew strong, in fact, so strong that when he was castrated, he slammed his head against the ground so hard that he broke cartilage loose in his long nose, resulting in a distinctive whistling sound when he breathed. True West magazine wrote, one ranch hand said it sounded like a steamboat, and the name stuck. For many a rodeo cowboy, it was the last thing they heard before hitting the ground. Solid black with three white stockings, the horse enjoyed parades and Wild West shows where he was known to keep time to the music the bands played, but while docile while being handled. There was something he could not abide, and that was riders. The buckler would not allow a man to stay on top of him, and rapidly becoming the toast of stock providers, he performed in every major rodeo in the U.S. for years. There's a great deal of controversy as to who the rider is on the license plate, from Stub Farlow to Jake Maring and to Guy Holt. But there's no controversy as to the fact that none of them ever rode the horse known as the Lord of the Plains or the King of the Hurricane deck to a standstill. Alan True captured the spirit of the animal for the pricely sum of $75 when Secretary of State Lester C. Hunt commissioned him to depict the horse and rider as a design for the 1936 license plate. Steamboat's story didn't end well, though. The legendary horse fell victim to blood poisoning due to an altercation with the barbed wire fence while pinned during a lightning storm in Salt Lake City. It quickly became infected, and in the end, Steamboat's life wound up crossing paths with that of another historic Wyoming figure, the infamous hired killer, Tom Horn. They brought him home to Cheyenne on the 14th of October, and they had to put him down, Candy Moulton said. Charlie Irwin had been a big supporter of Tom Horn. He had Tom Horn's gun, and so the story goes. He took the gun and he had one of his nephews shoot Steamboat. According to the Wyoming Tribune, in his last moments and despite his suffering, Steamboat faced his death head on, with his head up and a trace of his old fire in his eyes. But what became of Steamboat after his death has faded into mystery, leaving behind several theories. Some claim he was buried at the Y6 Ranch. The newspaper accounts say that he was buried more or less where he fell at the Cheyenne Stockyards. And there was discussion of bringing him up to the Cheyenne Frontier Day Stadium, but there's no corroboration that that ever happened. In fact, in an excerpt from Craig Johnson's book, The Spirit of Steamboat, Walt Longmire spoke with one of the men who was there, standing under the old wooden bleachers with The man's name was Paul R. Hansen. And he told me people say that he was buried at Frontier Park, but that's not true. The old cowpuncher looked off to the distance, looking for something, maybe some way to bring things back and change them. He was buried at the old city dump, where he was destroyed. It was a desecration, Walter, and that's for sure. And now you know the west of the story.